Hi there, it's Catherine, your lawyer friend and guide, and this is the #1 podcast for legal careers in Japan. Hi everyone, and thanks for stopping by the Lawyer on Air podcast. Today's guest is someone who refused to let barriers defined by others define her future. And it certainly was not easy, and there were plenty of naysayers. You know them, the ones whose job it is to squeeze the air out of your tires. But the value you place on yourself must always be to pump up your own tires and inflate them to a higher air pressure that naysayers can never deflate. Well, my guest today is Didem Tari, a Turkish registered lawyer who serves as legal advisor at Tokyo Electric Power Company's overseas business office. You will hear about the breakthrough moment at an event that shifted her mindset from maybe it's possible to it's happening. I was in the room with her, a place that allowed her to see working in Japan with unconventional skills and experience can be exactly what the right company is searching for in a lawyer. This conversation is about courage in the dark, it's about cheerleaders and safety nets, and it's also about jumping even when the lights are off. If you have ever felt like you did not quite fit into the typical mold, this one is for you. Let's get into it. Hello, Didem, and welcome to the show.
Good morning, Catherine. Thank you for hosting me today.
Wonderful to have you. We have a standard opening question. Imagine we are meeting up in person. Where are we and what are you ordering to drink from the menu?
I have to start that I am so happy, and it's such a great pleasure for me to hearing this question in person.
Great.
For a long time while I was listening to you, I was considering whenever I was exploring a new restaurant or a bar, a cafe here, I was like, would it be this cafe? Would it be this restaurant? But in the end, I have decided a perfect spot for us to meet. And we are meeting in Mosque Cafe in Shimokitazawa, which is making Turkish coffee.
Oh, isn't that very dark, thick coffee? Have I got that right? Tell me about it.
Yes. It's a
Oh,
dark, very strong kind of espresso style coffee, but it has the coffee grains in it.
oh,
And
really?
this one is more authentic because here the coffee is brewed on hot sand. For us, more than the style how you brew the Turkish coffee, for us, Turkish coffee itself is quite essential because Turkish coffee is the way that we socialize. Turkish coffee is the way that we pause the very high speed life and turn into each other, listen to each other, reach out to each other. We even have a proverb for Turkish coffee, which is a single cup shared in kindness can last 40 years in the heart. So with this Turkish coffee, I'm reaching out to you for 40 years of connection. Thank you.
Wow, I have never heard that before. And that's beautiful. It's so beautiful to hear that, right? A coffee lasting in someone's heart for 40 years for friendship.
Yes.
Oh, it's sort of making me think differently about coffee.
Yes, we have to. We have to have the coffee. And if we have time afterwards, I can even fortune tell you from the
Whoa,
coffee grains.
is that right? Okay, that sounds like a date. I can't wait. Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. That is really new, and I've never heard of this place before. I've got a friend who lives out in Shimokitazawa. I'm sure she knows, or if not, I might let her know about this place. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, I invited you on the podcast today because, gosh, it must be a few years ago now. You were standing at a point many lawyers find themselves, probably a little unsure whether Japan is really possible for you for a career in law. And when I first met you, you didn't quite fit the model, shall we say, template type. You came from a different jurisdiction. We'll get into that. Your background is in aviation and energy. And yet, instead of seeing all of those things as barriers, you have turned them into strengths. And today, here you are, not just working in Japan, but thriving. You're on this podcast. Your story is such a powerful reminder that the path in law doesn't have a typical look to work out well. And I really am excited to speak with you today. It's been a long time waiting. So tell me, Didem, what first led you to study law? And did you always imagine some sort of international career?
Thank you. First, I want to thank you for the amazing introduction. It means really a lot for me to hear all of these words from you. How I chose law is while I was in primary school, around 8 years old, I had to witness a very unfortunate and unlawful incident, which was an unjust, unlawful political defamation and framing. Ended up a very dear, close family friend who ended up in jail. And some years later, due to insufficient evidence, he was just released as if nothing happened. And this put me the first questioning period. Then, I was in secondary school, this time again, a very dear family friend, but this time a different legal injustice. This person ended up experiencing an attachment procedure which was carried unlawfully. Even they took away the refrigerator and TV in the house. And
Hmm.
as a secondary school student, seeing this, and of course, like these things were talked during the dinners at home, and I was seeing my parents feeling very sad for their beloved ones. And that two incidents made me decide that each family, every household needs a lawyer for sure. It is always a doctor, but these two incidents made me decide that every household needs a lawyer. And in my white family, we didn't have any legal background person then. I decided to be that person in my family. And for me, that was the beginning of choosing the law. Thereafter, I never had a doubt, never had a second thought, and it was all decided.
Amazing. How can that be that at 8 years old you have that memory? I can't think of what I was doing apart from climbing trees or running around with my brothers on bicycles in the neighborhood. And to know that happened at 8 years of age and you still remember it is quite incredible. And then another incident when you're in secondary school. How old were you then?
I think I was around 12 or
12 or
13.
13. Yeah, right. So from there, your background really goes into, as I said in the beginning, energy and aviation and cross-border work. But where did they start coming to be of interest to you, as well as the law? Give us the timeline there.
Cross border and international work, I really cannot trace back because I always had this love towards international elements, love towards Japan specifically. But I seriously do not know where did it start. For Japan, I'm always joking. Maybe I was a Japanese in my previous life and it all started from there. But for the international elements, it might be we had a lovely program, a TV program called From 7 to 77. The producer of the program was going to different countries and introducing different cultures on TV. It might be that program, or it might be we have a specific day for children, which was given by the founder of the Republic of Turkey. Maybe it was that because we were receiving international children for that day specifically. They were visiting the primary schools and we were having the festivities together. It might be that. I really do not have any idea for the beginning. But as a career path, choosing it is happened in the college for sure. For aviation, I cannot say it was a determined choice. It was more serendipity when Turkey changed its policies and started making investment or making it more attractive to invest in the aviation and defense industries, then foreign investors started coming to Turkey, and we happened to have some foreign investor clients, and then aviation came into my plate. But for energy law, it was a preference, it was a choice that I made. While I was in university, I really enjoyed the energy law lessons. Plus, when I started to think in which industry or in which area of law I want to practice law, I thought energy industry was a very strategic sector. And it was when I was a student, it was still relatively a new area and a niche area, which provided a space for growth. And it had and it still has this international dimension because it's often involved with foreign investors. The supplies are generally cross border supplies, and it requires international financing. And with all of these elements together, energy law cannot be just domestic. It always has the international elements in it. And I love the law areas which are heavily regulated instead of being more discretion free. Therefore, all of these led me to energy law, and I decided working on an international energy law area while I was graduating from law school.
I see. Well, that's amazing, that background and how the elements, I love that word, how you've put them all together there. I'm intrigued, though, your comment about Japan and how you believe you may have been Japanese in your previous life. It's funny, I was once told by someone who observed me doing something that I was perhaps once a
Wow.
samurai's wife in a previous life, but that's another story for another day. But you made me think of that. So what did bring you to Japan, to Tokyo? What's your backstory there that brought you here? There's one thing to think about Japan and love it from afar and be exposed to Japan in some way, but coming here is a big investment in your time, energy, and your career. Tell me more about that. What happened to bring you to Japan?
I had this deep love towards Japan since my childhood, and because of that, when I started the law school, I at the same time I also started learning Japanese as a hobby. I always hold this dream of living and working in Japan one day. And after I started practicing law in a boutique law firm in Ankara, it has always been, I want to go to Japan one day. But it was, of course, from the beginning, it was like, but we have this client. After this client and this project finishes, then I will look for Japan. Or after this, and all of a sudden, I found myself working in the same place for more than 13 years. And then I was like, I shall not postpone it further. And at that point, I said, okay, now I will invest in Japan. I will be more serious. I will focus on the path for Japan. And then here I am.
How did that work that you came to Japan? Was there some offer here, or did you just come to Japan?
There was no offers, and on the contrary, there was literally no access to the Japanese legal market for me because, as for the other jurisdictions, it might be easier, or there may be many senpais walking this path already. But in my case, I didn't have any senpais, or I didn't have any person to take as role model because Turkey is not one of those jurisdictions directly related with Japan. I received some job offers, but they were not related with legal areas. One of them was related with tourism. And I was like, I do not want to work in a non legal job. And I immediately rejected them without any second thought. But for this position, it was me who looked for it and got it and then came for the position.
Amazing, because you don't have the role models around you. Sometimes we can box ourselves in and end up being, again, like you had 13 years before in the boutique firm, you may have gone down a pathway of having several years in a place that wasn't law. So you were terribly focused, I think, at that point.
Yes, I was.
Yeah, and I think too that time in, if I go back to the Ankara time that you had there, after this, after this, after this, the not now are the two worst words apparently for careers is people putting off something by saying not now. And I think that after this is very similar. And sometimes we spend a lot of time in a place where we probably should move on from. So very brave of you is my reaction to that, of coming from one country to another and being adamant you want to stay in a law career. So you are rejecting all the other offers that were not related. That's very courageous of you.
Thank you.
So when we met a few years ago, my impression was that you weren't sure whether you would be able to find a legal role in Japan. Perhaps it was at that timing where you were rejecting some offers and finding your way. What were your biggest doubts around that time?
I had doubts, of course, but those doubts were not my own doubts. Here, I would like to borrow your phrasing. It was the doubts of the naysayers, because I had many naysayers around me who were saying, like, law is domestic, you aren't qualified in Japan, you should know a native level Japanese, or like, why a Japanese company should hire you while Turkey and Japan are not having this high volume of trade. And these objections are factual. Therefore, like, even though I really wanted to come to Japan, sometimes, although I was dismissing their voices in my mind, sometimes I couldn't manage that, and they managed to get under my skin. Plus, on top of this, as I just mentioned, I didn't have any access to the Japanese legal market. I didn't know even where the doorknob was. So sometimes it was putting me in a position where I was veering their doubts on me.
I see. I know that we met at a Women in Law Japan event. So somehow you found that organization and were able to meet some people at that event, I believe, and beyond that. But yes, those naysayers telling you that you can't get a job in Japan because of those, level of Japanese isn't native, you're not qualified here. But look, there are so many people before you on this podcast who have indeed done that without those things. And that is the whole point. We can't ever turn off the naysayers, we can only react to them. So you've also been brave to force yourself through those comments and somehow manage them. They do get you down, I'm sure. But did that feel like the biggest wall for you, that jurisdiction or language, or was it something else, access to people who could trust you or believe in you to give you that first step? What felt like the biggest wall for you?
Actually, the latter one, the language or the industry background or the jurisdiction, of course, they were challenging, and of course, they were limitations for me, but I cannot say they were basically walls. They were not unbreakable, they were not unpassable. I always thought if only I could find an international aviation or international energy position, then all of these language, jurisdiction, or industry background barriers would be just like diminished there. But for me, the main challenge, the biggest wall, was not having an access. As I didn't have an access, as I didn't have a senpai, I was kind of invisible. I was not being heard, or I was not being given a chance. And I didn't know how to access these people or places. And therefore, the meeting, the Women in Law Japan meeting, gave me lots of motivation. Seeing their amazing, wonderful women with different backgrounds, and seeing that everybody had followed a different career path, then I felt, okay, I can also do that.
Incredible, right? That you felt invisible, but that event made it possible for you to see the actual people in the room, right? Seeing is believing and being able to speak with them. I remember that event so vividly because I think it was the year I was relinquishing my presidency of Women in Law Japan. And it was such an incredible evening. It was full of lots of different emotions and people. And your conversation, I can go back to the place where we were standing when we were talking together. I think it's amazing that you've broken through. So, was it then that you thought Japan is possible for me?
Yes, even from the beginning, I was thinking Japan was possible for me, but it was weaker. I was thinking it was possible, but I didn't know how it was gonna happen. But after the Dazzle in December event, I started seeing it happening. I started visualizing it. I started saying like more strongly, yes, it will happen.
Right. So that was a breakthrough event for you.
Yes, it was.
Oh, wow, amazing. So your qualification, you mentioned that isn't typical here, but you've managed to leverage it really, really well. And I'm sure your story will really inspire others to believe that they can be suitable for Japan by, as you said, diminishing all those other things because a company came along and believed in you and has hired you. How did all of that fall away for you? Where was the time that you came to be introduced to this role that you have now? What happened between Women in Law Japan and that role? Because now you're probably looking back and thinking about it. There's some pathway you've followed where you've not given up and you've broken through, and someone has given you the chance. Can you help us understand what those, perhaps your job search, career building might have been around that time?
When I come back to Ankara, I had all of these options and tips listed in my mind, my practice at the same time. And also, I was having my second degree in aviation management. And lastly, I had this a big list of things that I wanted to complete it before closing the Turkey chapter. So I walked through all of them together. When I was feeling it was the darkest moment in job searching area, then I was focusing on the others that I had already on my table. So one by one, I focused on the list that I would like to complete, or I focused on the tips or options that I had listed on my table one by one. I wanted to leave no stone unturned because I wanted to make it for sure. And the more I worked on those, most of them, I must admit, most of them fall into the box which were inapplicable for me. Some of them due to being a Turkish native speaker, some of them due to not having any experience in Japan, some of them due to my age. So I eliminated most of the options, but each option gave me a new idea of walking towards a different way. Each option showed me, okay, if I cannot do this in this way, then I can try it in this way. And through that way, I started walking on the job hunting process, more sure steps.
Before we carry on, can you tell me some of those amazing tips that you received, the wisdom of wonderful women lawyers in Japan?
Some of them took some certain exams instead of the Noryokushiken, Japanese proficiency language test. Some of them took some Japanese business tests, or some of them showed me, you can try this master's program, or you can try to apply to this law firm, or that law firm has an apprenticeship, etc. Those kind of doors. For most of the tips, they were not directly applicable to me. But then this shows me, okay, I can try to search other language schools through this way. And of course, like while working on that, you're also realizing, do you want to enter through a language school, or do you want to enter through another door? Then, in my case, for example, I said, no, I do not want to enter through a language school. And I eliminated those tips or those options.
Ah, that's very interesting, right? So you've received a lot of information that may not be very relevant, especially, but you haven't stopped there. You've thought, well, what could this mean What else is there? What's another way that's a little similar? So you filtered through that, and it sounds like all of this information went in this big melting pot, and you sort of sifted through and got the coffee grains at the
Yes.
end there of what really mattered to you. You sound very deliberate in what you did. You dismissed things that probably weren't relevant, were not going to be relevant, and carried on. I don't know where this resilience has come from. Do you know what it is that's inside of you that's kept you resilient or kept your grit?
For my resilience, I think one of the main powers was that I really knew what I wanted to do. For
Hmm.
me, I didn't have any doubts about it. I was 100% sure. And it was one of the very strong powers behind my back. And the second power was having my lovely, supportive family and friends. Having these cheerleaders next to you on the side while you are trying to do your big jump is very important. And hearing they're like, you can do it, you can do it, we know you. If you want to do it, you will certainly do it. It is an amazing support. And
Yeah.
sometimes even just that makes your back more straight, makes
Yes.
you feel more motivated. Because of course, this is not an easy path. There are some bumps, there are some pausing stops, there are some darkest moments, there are some super demotivation hours. And with these cheerleaders, it's like, yeah, I can do it. Yeah, if
Amazing.
if she believes in me, yeah, I also do believe in me. Come on,
Yeah.
Didem, you can do it, kind of thing.
Well, obviously, we can hear your absolute joy in that. And thanks to your family and friends for sticking by you. And that does make a big difference, right? You've got these people with the safety net supporting you. So, for others who are feeling like they don't fit into the usual mold in Japan, what advice would you give them? Now you can look back and share these ideas with people. What advice would you give to lawyers who feel they don't fit in?
I was also one of those. So I would start telling them because, like, if you are not fitting into a mold, you have to shape your own mold. So I would tell them, first of all, there is no one fits for all. And I'm sure all of the listeners of this podcast know it very well because, like, there is no one style background in the entire guests who are more than 100 now. But besides this, I would tell them just focusing on their strengths, weaknesses, and their core values together. Because if they're gonna build their own mold, they need to know what they want to, what they don't want to, what would make them happy. Then they would also need to check the mold at hand and seeing the mold at hand and their strengths, weaknesses, core values, what they want or not want to, then they can shape the amazing mold fits for themselves.
Shape your own mold. I think that's almost a book title, or could be the title of this episode. Fantastic. What's the biggest then cultural or professional adjustment you had along the way? So you love Japan, but adjusting into culture might be a different thing. And also professionally, was there any challenge there for those two things, culturally and professionally?
For cultural adjustment, without any second thought, I can directly say Tatemae and Honne. Tatemae
Ah,
versus
tell us what
Honne.
they are. Yes.
Tatemae is expressing yourself in a like socially appropriate words way. The speaker is not telling his or her real feelings, real thoughts, but instead she is just expressing the socially expected or socially appropriate words. Honne is the real thoughts, real feelings of the speaker. Turkey has a direct communication. We do not do tatemae. We do not express ourselves in a, socially I'm expected to speak in this way. And because of that, it was difficult at the beginning to understand whether this person really means this or with saying these words, is this person actually mean that? I'm still not a master of Honne and Tatemae, but I am in a better position compared to 2 years ago. I still prefer having a direct communication, hearing people's honne thoughts.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? It is definitely part of Japanese society and adjusting how direct we are or indirect. Sometimes it's very helpful, though. Don't you find that sometimes not saying things, using it to your advantage on the other side, not towards someone, but your own situation when you're a little bit more vague, it's quite helpful sometimes to not answer the direct question that might be asked you about how you had your weekend or what you do socially or what your hobbies are maybe. So sometimes being vague and utilizing that part of culture could be helpful.
It could be if you have the skill of speaking in a Tatemae way, since I am
Mm,
not being able to use it as an
mm,
escape route,
right.
unfortunately.
And I guess that was also something, it's cultural, but it does affect the professional adjustment too, because I'm sure it also happens in the workplace.
For the professional part, of course it's there, but to my direct colleagues, I explained this, and I'm lucky that they are taking the honne stance towards me.
Right.
But for professional adjustment, I have a different
Yes.
point,
Yeah.
and I'm sure many other guests experienced this who were transiting from external practice to an in-house role. For me, it became, and it still is actually, the biggest professional adjustment area because I had to unlearn the way that I was practicing law for 15 years so that I can fit into this new in house role. Because basically, external practice and in house practice are doing the work from different perspectives and different angles. For an external practitioner, while the problem is framed for you, the client is bringing it in the framed version. As an in house, you have to be the one who is framing it. Or as an external, you have to do an exhaustive research, while as an in house, you stop when you think the answer is good enough. So there are like many these kind of small differences in between external and in-house practices. For some of them I learned and unlearned, of course. For some of them I am still in a position that I'm unlearning and relearning. But in short, I can summarize external practice is more about excellence in execution, while in house is more excellence in judgment.
Well, there we go. There's a mini guide to how to adjust from being an outside legal professional to moving inside. Excellent. Thank you for those tips. And now you are actually working, aren't you, as a legal advisor at Tokyo Electric Power Company, often called TEPCO, in the overseas business office. First, I want to know how that came to be. Where did that amazing offer come from? And then I want you to tell me a little bit more about your role, if you can.
When I see the job offer on an online job hunting website, I said this position is basically created for me because the criteria that they were looking for was being qualified as a lawyer, having been practiced in English, knowing a certain level of Japanese, having an expertise in energy law, and I think it was that's all. And me being practicing for almost 15 years and basically providing legal services to an international clientele, therefore working in the language of English.
Yes.
And also being qualified in Turkey and knowing Japanese, I thought this role is for me. And in my previous practice, our main industries that we were providing legal services was energy and aviation. And in terms of energy, it was mainly focused on renewable energy. So when I saw the job offer, I was like, what? Is this real? Then I applied, and of course, I got the position.
Amazing. Congratulations. That's just incredible. Was often we hear about these online websites, but you've been successful in that way. And I don't know that any of the guests so far, and as you said, there's been more than 100, have talked about that way or that method of accessing roles. That's really fantastic. Tell me about your role. What do you do? It must be very interesting.
I am working in the overseas business department in TEPCO. And since it's the overseas business department, I am in charge of cross-border transactions. Therefore, my main role involves drafting, reviewing, and revising international contracts, such as NDAs or different types of service agreements or power purchase agreements, EPCs, ONMs, and such. In addition, as being a member of due diligence group, I am responsible for conducting the legal due diligence in the M&A transactions.
Amazing. What have you learned about yourself since you've stepped into this new chapter in Japan?
What I learned about myself is like, of course, I knew that relocating to a new country, stepping out of your comfort zone at the age of around like 40s would not be very easy. I was expecting to have challenges to a certain extent, but I was not expecting to this extent. When I come, the first couple of months, now I'm realizing they were literally survival months because I was trying to navigate through the daily life while learning and unlearning how to work. And at the same time, I was trying to find my house and settle down. And my ship cargo was lost somewhere in the ocean. And like lots of other little troubles, which were uh, in the end completely put me in a very overwhelmed and exhausted situation. But looking back now, I'm realizing I was and I am way more resilient than I knew that I was. So this was one of the first things that I learned about myself. And for this one, I'm just like giving a big hug to myself. And the second one was, especially after hearing from too many naysayers for a legal position that I was required to know native level Japanese, I was doubting about my Japanese level because, of course, I am not having a native level Japanese. And Japanese is not an easy language to get to that level at all. And I realized that my Japanese skills are better than my expectation. Of course, I cannot say it's perfect, but I'm able to follow legal, technical meetings in Japanese, although in a broken way, by using help of English words when I am cornered. I am also able to express myself, my legal opinions in Japanese. So I am happy to say my Japanese is better than I expected. But here I also must give the credit to my colleagues because they have always been very supportive, very patient, and very encouraging. This is helping me to improve my Japanese with a very wide safe net under me. And this new chapter is proving me that I am adjusting good, I
Hmm.
guess.
Interesting. I wanted to ask you why you think naysayers say these things.
For this, I may sound a bit harsh, but sometimes I'm thinking because they are not courage enough to fly away, maybe not intentionally, they are also trying to break your courage. This might be emerging from two reasons. One of them is because they are afraid that you could get hurt, and loving you, they want to prevent you from getting hurt. The second one might be if you do it, you will prove them that they were wrong. If you do it and prove them that they were wrong, they will also see that, oh, I could have done this as well. I couldn't do it because I was not brave enough. And maybe it is a subconscious reason why they are just saying nay and trying to prevent you from doing that.
Very intuitive. I often say I think that they reflect their own risk level on you. They mirror it back to you. You've given me another way of thinking about it, that they might actually be trying to protect you from a really good position without wanting to see you being hurt. But then there's the other aspect you've mentioned about they don't want to be proved wrong, and this is where you've also touched on that too. Interesting. Thank you for those insights. I wanted to ask you a little bit more, though, about your superpowers. You talked about a couple before. Is there anything else you'd like to elaborate on that?
As my superpowers, I would go for being a detail-oriented person because I always had this focus on details, and sometimes it's like I cannot stop thinking on that, even though I say no, 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 it's not the right time for that. I have to be quick, etc. But still, I am focusing on the details, and I think it gives me the ability to read the air better, to observe things thoroughly, which is not only preventing small mistakes turning into major problems, but also it kind of improves my risk assessment and increases my sound judgment skills, I may say.
Yeah, there's sort of the shadow side of being detailed is also on the positive side that you've got as a superpower. It's managing that, isn't it? How
Mhm.
detailed to be in the certain situation, perhaps.
Yes.
Wow. We've gone through a lot today. I just wanted to ask you before we go into some quick fire questions, is there any one piece of wisdom that you would like everyone to take away with them today from what you've told us?
After speaking about my following my passions this long, I think I would go with the cliche and I would say if you do what you love, you will never work a day in your life. In other words, I would say turn your passion into profession.
Are you ready then for the quick fire round?
Yes, I guess I am.
I guess. Okay, well, what is one book or a podcast or some resource that you'd like to recommend to lawyers who want to grow into leadership or have a career here?
As a book, I will go for the In the Name of Identity from Amin Maalouf, which I love a lot, and I do not know how many times I presented this book, which argues that reducing people into a single identity inevitably creates exclusion and injustice. Therefore, I believe this book is providing a strong conceptual foundation for DEI in law. And in order to ensure equal access to justice and fair decision making, I believe for legal systems, recognizing individuality and individuals are multiple, intersecting identities are very essential. Therefore, this book is a must read, in my opinion. As podcast, I would like to recommend European Journal of International Law to have this general knowledge about the current developments in international law. And for those foreigners who are willing to come to Japan and who are willing to improve their Japanese skills, I would recommend Yu no Nihongo no Podcast.
Sounds good. Who's running that podcast?
Yu-san.
You, got
His
it.
name is Yuki.
Ah.
Yuki. His abbreviation, his nickname is Yu.
Yeah, he's probably got from Yuki, he's got Yu. That's very cute. Thank you for that. I'll take a listen. If you weren't a lawyer, Didem, what do you think you might be doing instead?
Well, for this one, it is not my direct interest, but it is kind of an interest intrigued by people repeating it regularly. I am always hearing from people whenever I tell a story or tell an experience of mine. People are always saying, "Oh, you made us live through it with your mimics, gestures, like body language and everything. I felt as if I was there when you were living this." And this made me wonder about my acting skills. And I would go for theater player, I guess. I
Well,
am
there's
wondering whether I do
nice.
have talent or not. I'm
Well,
not
there's
sure.
lots of opportunities in Tokyo. There's quite a few where you can stand up and tell your story. I think it's 10 minutes, 10 points. You might try that.
I might try.
What's something then, maybe it's that might surprise people about you outside of legal life, or is there something else?
I have a guilty pleasure, which is knitting while watching something on
Ah,
Netflix or on like a movie, etc. Because I love both of them, both watching something and knitting. But if I do them separately, I'm feeling guilty that I'm killing my time. But when I combine them together, I'm feeling that time is a very productive time. I'm both
productive.
watching and knitting. Since I'm just knitting very plain, simple scarves, then I'm gifting them.
Well, it is truly what someone like James Clear, who wrote Atomic Habits, says is combining things, doubling up on
Uh-huh.
something that you want to do and don't want to do, or something that you want to do but you feel guilty about doing it.
Mhm.
You've just hit on it. So you've got the perfect explanation for what his theory. So well done. And I think the final one would be that I've been asking a few people, and this is quite fun, is if your career was a metaphor, what would it be? Some people have talked about being an animal. Somebody mentioned their career was like water. What would yours be?
I would also go for an animal. As a scuba diver, I love underwater and I love marine life. And I would go for an octopus.
Mm,
And for this, I found my sub metaphors also. Octopus having three hearts, those three hearts symbolizing my three passions: love, Japan international career, and energy industry. Octopus having eight arms, and all eight arms are capable of learning, sensing, moving, acting independently. Those are my skill sets that I have acquired in my life. Octopus being the master of camouflage, symbolizing my skill and willingness of adaptability. And octopus having the ability to regenerate symbolizes my resilience and taking the challenges as room for growth, room for getting more stronger.
whoa, that's amazing. You need to print that out and put it on your wall. That's incredible. And get an image of an octopus. Amazing. Do you like octopus? You've
I
seen them.
love them. It is very
Oh,
rare to catch them
yeah.
underwater because they are literally the
They're
master
very
of
fast.
camouflage. Like more than being
Ah,
fast, they are great at camouflaging.
camouflage. Got
And
it.
since they are nocturnal animals, you cannot see them in day dives. You have to do a night dive to see them.
They are nocturnal. I did not
Yeah,
know that.
yeah, they are nocturnal.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Well, we've reached the end of our chat today. I hope you've really enjoyed yourself. It's been such a pleasure speaking with you. How was it?
The pleasure is all mine. I really enjoyed it. It was amazing to walk with you. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so
Thank
much.
you. Well, before we finish up, where's the best place for people to reach out to you if they'd like to connect and maybe explore doing some more things with you?
It would be LinkedIn.
Okay.
I am regularly checking my LinkedIn and I would be very happy to receive messages.
Thank you. Well, we'll put that information in the show notes so that listeners can easily find you. And to my listeners, if this episode has inspired you, and it should have, please tell us. We'd love to hear from you. Make sure you do subscribe, leave us a review. We love hearing reviews, seeing reviews on our website as well. Your feedback really does help more listeners find this show and discover answers to questions they always wanted to know about a career in law in Japan but didn't know where to find them. That's all for today. See you back here for the next episode. Cheers, kampai, and bye for now.